nervous and anxious, his Tourette besting him like the lord and master it was. He squelched an urge to jerk his head and blow out a noisy puff of air. When they reached Kramer's door, she raised her hand and knocked. "Herr Kramer?" she said. "Herr Kramer, won't you open up?" There was no answer. "I assume you don't have a key," Losman said. She shook her head. "Maybe he's not home." "He's home." Caroline nodded at the long, rectangular mail slot that was a staple in old apartment buildings like this. "See for yourself." Losman squatted. He took a deep breath, pushed his index finger through the slot, and lifted the lid. A decadent odor pungent of cigarettes and feces stung his eyes and mouth. He flinched, pulling his hand away from the slot and gasping for air. "Did you see him?" "Not yet," he coughed. After covering his mouth and nose with his left bicep, he lifted the lid one more time. Holding his breath, he now saw a mountain of letters and magazines and newspapers piled on the floor. Losman scanned the room. What he was looking at was an apartment that was the perfect replica of his own, only in reverse. There was a recliner, a sofa, and a coffee table. At the far end, straight ahead, a wall yellowed by cigarette smoke divided the living room from the galley kitchen behind it. And there Losman saw a pair of unmoving legs, sprawled out on the floor in the hallway, surrounded by broken glass. The other half of Kramer's body was lying on the kitchen linoleum out of sight. Losman got to his feet. "You better call somebody," he said to Caroline, wanting desperately to shake his head or clear his throat, or blink or snort. "I think Kramer is dead." After she made the call, they sat down on the stairwell to wait for the ambulance. Caroline was withdrawn, and Losman wondered what in the world had possessed her to wear a green gabardine coat and cloche hat. On her feet, he noted, she wore pink and white Nikes. No socks. Should he put his arm around her to comfort her? Probably not. He barely knew her. How then could he reassure Caroline without making her uncomfortable? Tell her it was all right? What he wanted to say was, "If you heard Kramer fall last night, why did you wait until now to do anything?" But that, he knew, was very much the wrong thing to say. She told Losman how she'd found Kramer slouched on the stairwell sleeping. She'd helped him up. "He invited me to his place," she said, "but I said no. He'd wet himself. His pants were stained. I guided him to his apartment, and I cleaned up the mess in the hallway." "That's very kind of you," Losman said. He watched Caroline chip at the nail of her right index finger, picking at it like she was trying to remove a difficult stain. She was an odd duckling, an artist and filmmaker who, as the bio on her website indicated, also made short promotional films for corporate clients. Losman assumed that was how she earned her living. A single woman a few years younger than Losman, she lived in an Endil-Sleilehill, a nearly impossible word to translate because the concept was so foreign to Americans. It was a living arrangement in which you became a member of a cooperative association, and, as a member, could live in an apartment owned by the association. She often dressed like a widow at a funeral, wearing long black skirts and boots and painting her face with heavy eyeliner, sometimes smearing a black teardrop down one corner of each eye for effect. Losman was, of course, absolutely smitten by her. Last summer, he found a flyer taped to the mailboxes in the entrance of their building. It was an advertisement for an exhibition she was giving in the Bohemian free town of Christiana. When he got there, he found an old 3-story villa that had fallen into disrepair, like so much of Christiana, and immediately entered a narrow foyer that smelled tartly of fresh paint. He'd expected to see people milling about, examining Caroline's artwork, sipping wine from plastic cups like they do at these things, but the only person there was Caroline. She stood stiffly erect in a prim blue skirt and yellow blouse. "Thank you for coming," she said, trying to smile. "Where is everybody?" Losman said, and instantly regretted it. He knew from several of his own poorly attended readings the vulnerability you feel when no one comes to your event, when no one cares. Caroline's face flushed with embarrassment. She pointed to a separate, adjoining room. "The exhibition begins there, if you'd like to see it." The exhibition space was a wide, airy hall, bright and quiet, tomb-like.